looking through, this is one we have to bring back up because it's just the media reporting over this election is so frustrating. And it goes back to this a story from The Onion from, I think, 2009, where, I'll just read it word for word. More than a week after President Obama's cold-blooded killing of a local couple, members of the American news media admitted Tuesday that they were still trying to find the best angle for covering the gruesome crime. I know there's a story in there somewhere, said Newsweek editor John Meacham, referring to Obama's home invasion and execution-style slaying of Jeff and Sue Finkowitz on April 8th. Right now, though,
home invasion and execution-style slaying?
Yeah.
So Barack Obama busted into their home.
Yes.
And shot this couple execution style?
Right. And they're trying to find the appropriate way to cover this.
Right.
As the Newsweek editor said, right now, though, it's probably best to just sit back and wait for more information to come in. After all, the only thing we know for sure is that our president senselessly murdered 2 unsuspecting Americans without emotion or hesitation. Added Meacham, it's not so cut and dried. Since the killings took place, reporters across the country have struggled to come up with an appropriate take on the ruthless crime, with some wondering whether it warrants front-page coverage, and others questioning its relevance in a fast-changing media landscape. What exactly is the news hook here? Asked Rick Kaplan, executive producer of CBS Evening News. Is this an upbeat human interest story about a day in the life of a bloodthirsty president who likes to kill people? Or is it more of an examination of how Obama's unusual upbringing in Hawaii helped shape the way that he would one day viciously butcher 2 helpless citizens in their own home? It's an interesting question. Mm-hmm. Or maybe the story is that murder is just cool now, Kaplan continued. I don't know. There are a million different angles on this one. So far, the president's double homicide has not been covered by any major news outlets. The only 2 mentions of the heinous tragedy have been a 100-word blurb on the Associated Press wire and an obituary on page E7 of this week's edition of the Lake County Examiner. Mm-hmm. While Obama has expressed no remorse for the grisly murders, point-blank shootings with an unregistered .38 caliber revolver, many journalists say it would be irresponsible for the press to sensationalize the story. There's been some debate around the office about whether we should report on this at all, Washington Post senior reporter Bill Tracy said while on assignment at a local dog show. It's enough of a tragedy without the press jumping on it and pointing fingers, or at worst, exploiting the violence. Plus, we need to be sensitive to the victims' families at this time. Their loved ones were brutally murdered, after all. Nevertheless, a small contingent of independent journalists have begun to express its disapproval and growing shock over the president's actions. I hate to rain on everyone's parade, but we are in the midst of an economic crisis here, political pundit Marcus Reed said. Why was our president ritualistically dismembering the corpses of his prey when he should have been working on a new tax proposal for small businesses? I, for one, am outraged. New York Times newsroom is reportedly still undecided on whether or not to print a recent letter received from Obama in which the president threatens to kill another helpless citizen every Tuesday and fill his heavenly palace with slaves for the afterlife unless the police stop the darkness from screaming. President Obama's letter presents us with a classic journalistic quandary, executive editor Bill Keller said. If we print it, then we're giving him control over the kinds of stories we choose to run. It would somehow be an acknowledgement that we give the nation's commander-in-chief special treatment. Added Keller, that's just not how the press in this country works.
That's genius.
It is, genius.
Oh, that's...
from The Onion, great.
What a great way to make a point. That
it is.
The press is so in the bag for him that they won't cover any bad thing.
Even if he murders people.
Even if he murdered people, you wouldn't get any coverage on it.